just a quarter of the way through his third NBA season, Victor Wembanyama is that dude. He has the makings of the face of the NBA. He has every tool in the toolbox. But the scary truth about Victor Wembanyama and players like him is the NBA season is usually too rigorous, and these players suffer career-altering injuries that rob us of their prime. And here's what's even more dangerous for us, is that Victor Wembanyama might actually be better than all of them that have come before him. Let's look back at some of the NBA's most promising big men, those who were giants, who were out of like a comic book movie, and let's see how their careers were derailed. In fact, the NBA used to be a big man's league before guys like this started showing what the downside is. But fear not, Wemby fans, because unlike most of the examples on this list, Victor Wembanyama has a bunch of advantages working for him. Let's talk. We cannot tell Victor Wembanyama's current story without going back and looking at the original larger-than-life big man whose career was shockingly cut short by injuries. His name is Ralph Sampson, picked in 1983 by the Houston Rockets, ahead of guys like James Worthy, Byron Scott, and Clyde Drexler. Crazy, right? But at the time coming out of college, he was arguably the most recruited college player ever, having won 3 times. And standing at 7'4", this dude was before Wemby. But the sad thing is, he only played 12 years, and even during those 12 years, he was constantly injured. Never could put together too many winning seasons. And here's what's even more tragic. Much like Wemby, when Ralph did play, he was a game changer. So much so that he is actually in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, despite all of it. But the truth is, while Ralph Sampson was a huge disappointment, the Houston Rockets actually managed to draft an even better big man a year later. So in truth, it's not as tragic as it could have been. And here's the thing most people don't know about Ralph Sampson, is that actually he was injured before selecting. He actually lied at his physical. He came out and said that later. So that's a huge thing to take, because that's not the case with Wemby. But okay, most of you watching this video won't even know who the hell Ralph Sampson is. And I'm sorry if I've lost your audience already, but if you're still watching, let's talk about a more contemporary example. In the 2015 draft, the New York Knicks selected a unicorn from Latvia known as Kristaps Porzingis to a smattering of boos, of course. Those self-same fans were jumping out of their chair 3 months later when this 7'4" kid was dunking on people, shooting threes, and blocking your shot at the other end. He was the first unicorn, the more contemporary Wembanyama. In fact, Kevin Durant himself branded him a unicorn. And truly, I have to say, those first few years of Kristaps Porzingis were absolutely jaw-droppingly insane. This guy was doing everything at 7'4", like running in for putback dunks, posting you up, then shooting threes. Kristaps Porzingis had everything. But then, one crazy ACL tear later that robbed him of all his athleticism saw one of the craziest downward spirals I've seen for a superstar caliber player of that ilk. He went from being the savior in New York to being a catch and shoot 3-point shooter in Dallas, and not even the preferred one. Then he goes to Boston and somewhat revives his career, and then gets hit with another mystery illness, which leads him to be traded again. Now he's in Atlanta, and to his credit, he's a grinder, he's working his way back into shape, and he's carved out a role in the NBA. Great for him. But a crazy downfall for a guy who projected to be a top 5 NBA player for a long time. But speaking of top 5 NBA players, this guy, his career was cut short by injuries, but he did take the court enough to be considered a top 5 or top 7 player. and that is Yao Ming, another Houston big man. Was literally like playing against a skyscraper. He was very good on defense. Then on offense, he was damn near unstoppable when he took the court. And he was one of those dudes, much like Wemby today, he had that gravitas. No matter what, even if he was having a bad night, you had to send doubles towards him. But here's the thing, when you sent the double, he would find the open man. If you think about when the Lakers won in 2010, actually the Houston Rockets who gave them the most trouble. And that was Houston Rockets without Tracy McGrady. That was just Yao. He was that damn good. But unfortunately, we never got to see prime Yao. Because every time he had any sort of momentum, his body would betray him. No matter what, no matter that when you saw him, he looked almost invincible. His legs were the size of tree trunks. He even made Shaq look small. Oh, and speaking of Shaq, he might not have been 7'3", but he was 7'1", and one of the most gargantuan players you'll ever see, plus one of the most dominant. But you know what's crazy about Shaq? Despite how well he played, his career could have been so much better. There was so many injuries, so many stop and starts, and unfortunately, he was a lot to blame for that as well. He didn't take care of himself to the way he could have. And unfortunately, that cut his career short, and we were robbed of some of Shaq's prime years, which truly is a tragedy, and one we must try to avoid with Victor Wembanyama. But much like many of the players on this list, he paid the price for being that big. And that brings us to today. If we look at even Chet Holmgren, who has just spent a year off because of injury as well, his first year, his rookie year. If we look at Joel Embiid, who's also 7'2", 7'3", can't stay healthy. These are all huge warning signs, especially because if we look at Victor Wembanyama today, that is literally the only thing that has stopped him. It's his own body, it's injuries, it's being 7 foot 1,000 in the NBA. Can his body hold up? Because even with a minutes restriction in the NBA Cup, yes, they might not have ended up winning, but you see the kind of insane impact this guy can have. And to that point, fear not, Wemby fans, because he's actually in the best position to succeed versus anyone else on this list. Here's the thing. First of all, Victor Wembanyama is at the San Antonio Spurs. If there's any organization that knows how to protect and maintain and develop superstar players, it's them. And to the point of only playing him 24 minutes in an NBA Cup game. They're never gonna risk his long-term health for anything. And that's massive. And the other part is that medical technology now has gotten so much better. Like actually the last 5 years, the developments in the deeper surgeries and the bigger injuries has been astronomical. And if you pair that with the fact that Victor Wembanyama has already shown a massive desire to be great, a large part of that is his insane flexibility, which we know is one of the biggest ways to prevent long-term injury. It's not a given, but maybe Victor Wembanyama actually has every piece to avoid what has happened to people who are as tall as him in the past and in the future.